Hello, and welcome to Good News, Rhode Island. That cartoon you saw was drawn by Steve Brosnihan, who's here with us today. He's also the conductor of Good Night Lights. This show is about people who are often behind the scenes, who are making changes in our communities, who work hard for our children or for elderly or for each other in our communities, and yet we don't often hear about them. So no matter what's going on outside in the large news, sometimes the very bad news, the truth is that there's always good news going on in Rhode Island, and we're going to help to make it by taking this show. Thank you, Steve, for being here.
Thank you.
I've read about you. I think it's kind of a dream, what you've started. It's the kind of thing that somehow a novelist would come up with, and here you have. Let's find out how it happened. You are a cartoonist, but you must have had some artistic training.
Yeah, I had some artistic training. I went to a school that was not an art school, but I focused in art. And when I came out of school, I had ideas about being an architect, but I got sidetracked by doing some cartooning for local papers in Rhode Island, and that led to a career in cartooning.
So you're a Rhode Island person.
I am, born in East Providence. That's where I grew up.
So you go back there at night to shine your lights, so that's pretty appropriate. Mm-hmm. So you became a cartoonist for newspapers, and then you told me you went to the Red Sox and you were doing Red Sox names, is that right?
New England Patriots.
Oh, Patriots,
yeah.
I'm sorry.
That was a ways down the road, but yeah, that was one of the smaller jobs that I had for a while.
That's fun. Well, so now you're working in the hospital, and you are formally employed as a cartoonist for the hospital.
Well, I'm a volunteer to the hospital, but I am supported through a nonprofit organization outside of the hospital.
So you go into the hospital and you see these kids and you just take even 10 minutes and you try to get them laughing, try to get them out of the pain and the focus that they have.
Yeah, my goal is to distract and amuse with the positive goal of relaxing a patient, taking their mind away from the experience of being in the hospital for a little while.
A young child must be very frightened in a hospital.
Often, there's some fear when a child comes into the hospital, but I have to say that Hasbro Children's Hospital is such a welcoming environment, such a caring place. That fear is dissipated very quickly.
So you go to Hasbro and you walk into a room and you see a patient there, maybe lying there playing with video games or something. And how do you distract them from that?
It is a challenge. My line is usually, if you give me 5 minutes, I'll give you something that you'll feel is worthwhile. And then if you like the 5 minutes, I'll stay for 20. But give me 5. Just call a timeout and everything else you're doing, and just give me a chance.
And so what happens then?
And then the first thing I usually do is a drawing where I take the name of the patient and turn the letters of their name into cartoon animals. And that usually proves that I am really a valid cartoonist. And from there, I'll invite them to learn how to draw. I can teach them using a method that I call cartoonograms to very quickly teach them a character.
Do you want to show us your book that
Sure.
you've developed? This is a book that Steve's developed to teach kids right from the beginning to take letters and make it into animals.
So the concept behind the book and the method is we're using something that kids know very well, letters of the alphabet. And the book shows how you can use letters, it's a very simple character right here, to build a drawing just using letters that come from a hint word or a phrase. And every letter becomes part of the finished drawing. It's a very simple way to get from A to B to do a drawing, and it gives them confidence. Once they've done one, they generally want to do another one.
Because what you've done is you've tapped into something they haven't tried before, and suddenly it's interesting, which is more than maybe the rest of their day had been.
Yeah, certainly. And I love hearing a kid say, "I can't draw." It's like, good, this is perfect, because I'm going to prove that you can.
So they learn a skill they didn't know they had.
That's right. Mm-hmm.
And what kind of things do kids tell you? Can you generalize? I don't want you to tell any personal information. But
Well, I get various comments. Some are very complimentary to my efforts with the goal that I have in mind. I'll hear kids say that they don't want me to leave, that they look forward to seeing me tomorrow night if they're going to be in the hospital for a while. Parents occasionally tell me that the smiles that the child had while I was visiting were the first they'd seen since the admission. That's a huge compliment.
That's very much a compliment, Mike.
And one night I had a child tell me that he forgot he was in the hospital while we were together, which is the ultimate compliment.
Yes, that is the ultimate compliment. Did they tell you anything about their illnesses?
I do my best not to inquire beyond the very basics that I need to know to be appropriate in my behavior and conversation in a room. So I don't pry, but I've been there for a long time, and it's not hard to size up things just visually when I come into a room to figure out where I should be, the tone of my visit. So you can tell a little bit by the treatment that you're seeing too, what the child has. Yeah, I've become familiar with how a treatment protocol will affect the family and the child especially. And I work with the nurses pretty closely to guide my visits when it comes to kids who they know could use a little propping up on a particular night or afternoon. After a rough day. Yeah. And their parents, do you ever try to get them to do the same thing? Sometimes parents will join because they're so intrigued by what's going on. They don't generally get in the way of the child's participation, but I love having parents involved in any way with what I'm doing in those rooms. Giving them something positive is also a gift. Sure, absolutely. Now, you decided one day to give a signal back to somebody, and that child surprised you by responding to you. But it's interesting because you built a relationship, and you say you've never seen this boy again. That's right. But you built a relationship on a couple of visits, I assume? Yeah, more than a couple. Actually, over a couple of weeks, we got to know each other, spending about a half an hour per visit. So I felt like I really knew this young man who's a mid-teen, and we both could acknowledge that we're probably never going to see each other again because he's going home. Things went well with the treatment, and I said, I'd like to say goodbye one more time. How about this? Look out the window, and I'm going to be at that intersection at a certain time. I'm going to turn my bike around and shine a light toward you. That'll be my final goodbye. So what I was surprised about was when he blinked his room light to let me know he was acknowledging my signal. So there was a communication across the Narragansett Bay. Well, in this case, it was only to Dayball Square, but now it's extended much further than that. And so, tell me about these flashlights and how they interact with what you're doing. Sure. These flashlights are produced by the Coast Products Company in Portland, Oregon, which I think is great that they're so far away from Rhode Island, and yet they're very interested in being part of the program. They found out that I was using one of their lights to send my signal, which after that first encounter, I continued to do that kind of thing from my bus stop. The Coast people said, we love what you're doing, and we'd love to support what you're doing and try to make more happen. Can we send you some flashlights? I said, absolutely. So they started sending flashlights, and I started distributing them to people, businesses, individuals who thought they'd like to become part of this. So now you have a lot of, I'm sorry, I don't have my list here, but name some of the restaurants and places that you're going. The Tugboat. Sure. The Hot Club was the first of the businesses to get involved with both the building's lights and patrons who use lights. The Providence Steamboat Company is involved. Brown University Sciences Library. There are several buildings in the Providence skyline now, including 3 major hotels: the Omni, the Biltmore, and the Hilton Garden Inn. There are the 2 police departments involved now, East Providence and the Providence Police Departments. It's a church group from Bristol, the First Congregational Church. And they're all, by the way, they're also supported by the Tomorrow Fund for Children with Cancer, who has stepped in to start purchasing the batteries for the flashlights. They don't come with batteries. but the Tomorrow Fund does that.
That's really neat. So you've gotten interested in the outreach to oncology patients as well.
They're a primary part of the population that I visit.
So each one of these places at 8 o'clock at night distributes flashlights, is that right?
Some have them in hand. Some of these businesses and buildings have actually installed beacons, automated beacons, to make sure that the kids have something to see every night, whether or not people are available to hold flashlights for the signal. So the kids are guaranteed that they're going to see something from these buildings. There's a building in Providence, 100 Westminster, that has an automated LED light. It's a big window that actually spells out "Good Night Hasbro" every night at 8:30.
And so the kids know at 25 after 8 to get ready.
Yeah.
It's something to look forward to.
Yes.
They've finished their dinner. There's nothing else to do. Their parents have gone home. And so now they have this to look forward to.
Parents are often present, by the way. The visiting hours are pretty much wrapped up by then, but parents are often with children when this happens.
And so what happens on a good night?
Well, every night's a good night for Good Night Lights. Some nights there's a little more participation. Wednesdays are kind of a feature night. We get more. The talk button on the waterfront home in East Providence is active that night, in East Providence Police. But there's a buzz in the hospital at about 8:15. People are starting to get close to windows and scrambling to find a flashlight if they can. And the nursing staff is superb about trying to get kids into a position where they can see the display if their room doesn't have a view.
So they'll take them in a wheelchair or something to another room?
Yeah, could be an empty room or a conference room.
A waiting room. Uh-huh. And this light, you told me, was a gift to the nurses.
Yeah, this is a tiny, it's considered an inspection light. It's another Coast light, they call it a G10. Uses one AAA battery, but every nurse at Hasbro Children's Hospital is getting one. If most of them have gotten them already. It's a great light for the nurses to perform their duties with in a dark room.
Right. Uh-huh.
But it's also great for them to share with a patient if they'd like to point it out the window and become part of the display. The Tomorrow Fund actually purchased these lights with a huge boost from the Hot Club, who made a contribution to the Tomorrow Fund to help cover the price. Wow. And I'm excited because it means there's a potential for a whole swarm of little atomic fireflies to be visible when the display happens every night.
So do you think it might turn into more than 1 minute?
You know what? It has already stretched a little bit beyond a minute because it's hard to give up on it, especially when the signalers know they've got a communication going with the kids. They don't want to give up on it. So the kids end up sending sequences of signals out, and they are returned by the people on the other side, and they just keep it going.
Is Morse code involved at all?
No. I think that might make the program a little too complicated, but there's a general signal. The people signaling in use a four beat or four pulse signal for "Good Night Hasbro," and the kids send out 2 for "Thank you."
So it's a kind of
So there's a code.
Kind of language or code. That is really neat. And what's your hope for this program? I mean, it's almost astounding when you think, okay, somebody's shown a light and somebody else responded, and now somehow it's become this awareness program of the kids who are there so many weeks sometimes, sometimes years, unfortunately. It's a way for them to meet the community, which they would never know otherwise. But it's so simple. And it's virtually free. I mean, yes, they sent these lights, and that's wonderful, and the batteries, that's wonderful, but the truth is it's virtually free. And it's one of George H.W. Walker Bush's 1,000 points of light. You're creating your own light. So what is your hope for this?
Well, my hope is that the project starts converting into a tradition. I don't believe it's something that could ever stop at this point. It's a very sad thing if people stop doing this, and I don't think it will ever happen. I think it's going to have to keep happening as long as that hospital is there. My hope is that it will grow bigger. I think it's very small right now, but the potential for Providence and East Providence, with anyone that can find line of sight to the hospital can become part of this. So more kids will be served. I see it becoming a transformative experience for kids in the hospital, because every night is going to be exciting for at least a minute or two. And that's something to look forward to, even as you spend an extended stay in the hospital. And then my great hope is that other communities, other cities will discover that this is a simple, elegant little idea to help kids feel better and support them when they're in a hospital. And I'd like to see it spread. And
you do 8:30 because at night in the summer it's almost dark, or?
Yeah, I actually worked with some of my closest friends in the nursing staff to figure out the time that we should do this. When we first started in late 2015, and it was determined that 8:30 would be a great time as far as getting the kids to settle down, creating a signal that it is bedtime or time to start settling down, and also as far as the year, the calendar year in the sun, there would be enough visibility even on the longest day of the year to see the signal at 8:30.
How do you keep focused? You're surrounded by this hospital with everything happening. It's a constantly moving place, I'm sure. How do you keep focused?
I feel like I've got my own job to do there, if you could call it a job. And I feel like part of a team, I really do, when I walk into the hospital. So my focus is to do what I can to support the medical staff and, of course, the kids and families that are there. And there are a lot of people doing similar things. I'm part of the healing arts department, and that includes a lot of disciplines in art and music and other creative distractions that play the same role. So I feel like a teammate of those people.
Well, thank you so much, Steve, and the world needs a lot more of you, but thank you so much, and I do hope Goodnight Lights shines in every city near children's hospitals.
Thank you.
So here we are at the Hot Club. We're on Bridge Street, somewhat across from the hospital if you look down the head of the harbor. And I'm here with Eben Bates, who is the co-owner of the Hot Club, and CJ, who's here as a worker. And we're asking them why they got involved in this project with Steve. So maybe you can tell us what happened and how Steve got involved here.
Well, Steve called us a little over 2 years ago, telling us of his idea of blinking the lights for the kids, which we thought was great and really a no-brainer, an easy thing to do every day.
So you're doing it every day, and it's Wednesdays over on the bike path, but you're doing it every night. So what do the customers think?
It's going over very well. I think they realize we're trying just to give back to the kids because they're in the hospital and it's sad. And what we're trying to do is just to show them that the connection to the outside world and that we're here for them, for support. And we're very excited when they feel better and when we hear good stories that come from it.
We were here last night, and the person that was here outside was telling us how much he was impressed with you all for doing this. So I think it's pretty amazing. And people come here to get a drink and to get dinner, but the truth is they get a lot more because they get some community activity.
Yes, I believe they do, and we also have a lot of other things we do as well. And what we try to do is give back because we realize how lucky we are, as a Hot Club family. So we just like to take care and show other people what, just have them be happy and feel great.
You and your wife have made this decision to do this, and I'm not sure every business would do it. So I want to congratulate you and thank you and the Hot Club and CJ and all the people who work here who are so supportive of this, because we talked to a lot of people last night and everybody seemed really happy that you were doing it. So thank you. So now we're going to look at the hospital. It's almost 8:30 and we're standing across the river or across the bay from Hasbro Hospital. At one of the parking areas along the bike path. So here we are waiting for the time when we're going to turn the lights on to go over to Hasbro Hospital. And this is, what is your name?
Kaylin.
Kaylin?
Kyla.
Kyla?
And I'm Lieutenant Andy Benoit.
And Lieutenant Andy Benoit, and they're here with their mom so that they can shine their lights, and they're here every Wednesday because they really believe in making kids happy in the hospital. Is that right?
Yeah.
So what happens when you come here?
We sometimes turn on the lights and the kids flash back to us, and we usually say goodnight by flashing the lights
Okay.
to them, and they shine their lights back to us.
And how long have you been doing this?
We've been doing this probably about 2 years now.
And you feel like it's an important part of the kids' health?
Oh, absolutely. If we just take a second to 5 minutes out of their day where they don't have to think about what they're going through, whether it's any illness, treatments, or just the suffering that they're going through. If we can take that 2 minutes out of their day, it means the world to us.
And right before they go to sleep, they're probably a lot more calm if they know that everybody's out here supporting them.
Yeah, I mean, that's the hopes, that we can, put them at ease for just a little bit, and hopefully they can get some rest and, fulfill their treatments and get better.
Okay, so what are you going to do tonight? Are you going to shine your flashlight?
Yeah.
Can you show me how you shine it? Okay. So you turn it on, and there it goes. Look at that. Okay, well, thank you very much, and thanks for all your help making kids better, I hope.
Thank you.
Thank you. Now, if you look over at the hospital, you'll see lights coming back. And then we have all these police cars, all the public cars, all the flashlights saying, "Get well soon." I want to thank Steve Brosnihan and the nurses and the kids, all the police here, and all the people are here to say, please get well soon. We're all thinking of you. The whole community supports you in your efforts to get well. Thank you for watching Good News Rhode Island, and we hope you'll come over here and flash your lights for the hospital as well. This is Good News Rhode Island saying good night. Thank you for watching, and we're pretty sure that there's good night light around you as well. You can do it yourselves, and also there's good news around the corner for you too, and you're probably going to help to make it. Thank you for watching.
Go ahead.